If you're an Etsy seller or you're thinking about doing Etsy print on demand, you're gonna wanna watch this one through to the end. I've kept it super short and sweet for you, but basically for months, rumors have been swirling across the Etsy community about what was the direction of the business. People were being suspended, listings were being taken down, and there were a lot of questions about what was allowed on the platform given that it has changed so much. Well, this week we finally got an update and the CEO, Josh Silverman, gave us the playbook onto how Etsy is moving forward. And so I'm gonna give you the highlights so you don't have to do a bunch of reading on your own. The first thing I'm gonna do is start with the history lesson. So Etsy has been around for a very long time. However, during the pandemic, they reached an inflection point. As we all know, we were sitting at home, not being able to do much. There was this huge wave of shop local, support the people that were either newly unemployed or were now at home and they were crafting and doing their own hobby. And so Etsy really took off during COVID. Well, with that came the ability for people to do more print on demand elements. Folks were either, when they had to go back to work, they were no longer able to keep up with the demand that they had of crafting everything by hand. And so they looked to production partners to really take their business to the next level or at least keep the volume up. And so there's been a lot of print on demand over the coming years, not only on Etsy, but across other platforms. There's a lot of people right now, and I've spoken about it a lot, that are looking for an extra couple bucks every month and are willing to start a side hustle, have a really cool product, are willing to fill the need, and are just doing it themselves to create additional dollar. And so with that, print on demand got a little more popular, and there have been questions across the platform of, is Etsy the place for these types of goods, or is Etsy the place where people go for literally only handcrafted things? Somebody has to make every single item available for the public, and that finally got clarified this week. So the takeaway here and the big underlining thought is that Etsy is definitely a place for print on demand. The company has come out and said, hey, we are a platform where humans are the ones behind these products. They might not be able to touch every single one of them, but there is an actual human on the other side of that screen that is benefiting from the sales taking place on the platform. So that means that if you are designing and utilizing a production partner, or if you are designing and it's digital downloads, that is absolutely allowed on Etsy, and they've made it very clear on how to classify that for the shoppers. So what that means is that Etsy is making it just a little bit clearer for customers to understand what involvement the seller had in each one of the sales. So that could be made by the seller. So something was actually handmade and crafted by the seller and then shipped out. It was designed by a seller, meaning that a seller customized that design to be sold and put onto clothing or sold as a digital download, sourced by a seller, or handpicked by a seller. Those are the 4 buckets that Etsy is clarifying. You can definitely read more onto what exactly falls into each bucket, but that's the main takeaway. Now, my point 2 that I want to cover here is that means that print on demand falls very nicely into that second bucket, which is designed by seller. So this is a huge win for people in the print on demand community that have a presence on Etsy, and is validation that we are human sellers. We are behind these designs that are being crafted. There is human input that is going into this. We're still having to make the designs. We're still having to work through customer service, even though we're not able to have all the materials to print and buy and spend all this time printing and packaging orders. There was still a human element involved with that is making the sale possible. Now that leads me to my third point that I think is very important here with this update, which is designed by seller means that the design has to be made by the seller, or there has to be customization involved for the seller. So what is not allowed is if you utilize a platform like Fabrica and go over to their print on demand designs, you're not allowed to just take one of these designs, slap it onto a t-shirt and sell that t-shirt. You can, however, take that design, edit it, add different elements, make it your own, personalize it, add that to a t-shirt, and then ship it out with a production partner. And the last huge clarification update is alongside Mockups. So Mockups has been one of those things that everybody knows. If you're on Etsy as a seller or as a buyer, they are a huge driving factor for what you purchase and how well your sales do. Mockups are the first point of contact for the seller. And so there have been some questions across the Etsy community about what is allowed here, given that print on demand has so many different options. And so we finally have clarity onto what is allowed, and it's kind of broken up into 2 buckets. So the first bucket is if you are making designs that are not meant to be personalized. So this means that you are utilizing a design software, maybe that's Adobe, maybe that's Canva, maybe that's Kittl. You're making some edits to it, you're bringing your own elements in, you're putting that onto a t-shirt, a bag, whatever, and then selling that product. So there's no personalization that comes with every incremental order. It's just you've done that art piece already and folks are purchasing that. So what that means in that bucket is that you are absolutely allowed to use the mockups generated by your production partner or mockups that you create yourself. They don't have to be of the actual good. So if you're in that sphere, there's really no changes that have to take place. Now, the second bucket, which is a huge seller on Etsy, which I could foresee a lot of you having to make some changes for, is if you sell personalized listings. So this means that you have a listing up that somebody has to give you when they purchase it, information for you to edit that design, tweak that design to send out. What Etsy has come out and said here is that if this is a personalized listing, the first listing photo, so the one that shows up on the discovery page, has to be of an actual physical personalized good so the customer knows what they will be getting when they actually get their product. So you can't utilize mockups here that have insert text. In those instances, you should be purchasing a sample, taking actual photos, and then utilizing those photos as that first image. You can still have mockups in the overall 10 images that you're able to have, but the first one has to be very clear to the consumer on what exactly are you going to get as an example. So if you sell a t-shirt that has a first name customized option, then the first image has to have an actual name in there. So Abby's first day at school, it has to be that actual t-shirt. So this does allow for a lot of creativity for you to refresh your listing images and make them really stand out going into this new era of Etsy. So those are the main takeaways of the update. I think they're huge for print on demand, and hopefully a lot of you that were either thinking about Etsy print on demand are more comfortable dabbling in, because everything is allowed. This is the platform where there are humans behind, and that can be you generating cash every month, all from your computer and with basically $0 down. The second thing that I think is a takeaway here is that you don't have to freak out if you are an Etsy seller right now doing print on demand. There's really no input needed to classify those 4 buckets. Etsy has already utilized the information in your listings to go ahead and do that. If you are in that personalized bucket, you would probably want to start thinking about getting actual samples of those ready and changing those images. And if you are one of those folks that has utilized just standard unedited designs, you might want to consider taking a look at those and refreshing those with more customized bespoke options. If this is interesting to you whatsoever, please like and subscribe for more content like this. I'll be posting weekly.